Hello everybody and welcome to Wise Warrior's Path 2. Here you're looking at the hilt section of one of the swords that I'm going to be presenting to you in this video. And right here, this is the hilt of a rapier. You can see the cross guard. It's unique to other swords, and it as well has a knuckle guard that is built in one. And you see right there where the ricasso is, it has two rings or two half rings forming one ring with the ricasso in the middle. And that is so that your finger can go in, which creates better maneuverability and better guidance for the blade. It is a very convenient thing to have, and the Iberians would have liked to do this with a lot of their swords throughout the existence of the Reconquista and as well throughout the Spanish Empire. Other places would as well adopt these kind of hilts. Now right here you can see the sword, you can see the handle. This particular sword that I have right here is shorter than the other sword that I'm going to be showing you. The blade length for this is 25 inches. The overall length for this sword is 31 inches. Now the reason why this sword is short like that is because I had it custom built like that. I wanted it to be small, short, and compact. But I believe that the handle is still a little too small to grip, and it's okay. And you can see right there that it is very good for stabbing, very good for guiding the tip into your enemy. So that's just a quick demonstration. Here's another sword that I'm going to be showing you. It's the exact same one, but much more longer, much more bigger. The reason why I had this sword made like this, a small one, is so that I can give it to my son or my daughter one day. And also because I want something compact like that, that's kind of dagger-like. And you're going to see later on how that works. But the big one is exactly the same. And this one is just a little bit top-heavy. I'm going to have to moderate it. You can see that the end is not too tapered, even though the tip is tapered, but just the sword itself is not that tapered. But still, this is a very good cutting weapon. It is very good for maneuverability, and as well that ricasso with the guards on the side make it deadly. And that big cup that it has helps for the hand protection. It's very valuable. And you can see right there, this sword, it has a lot of power when it hits, but I haven't sharpened the end too much. So that's why it's not going completely through the target. But this sword right here would be very good for distance as well behind a buckler, which I'm going to show you very shortly. But right now I'm not really doing too much with the sword. I'm just kind of showing you what it looks like in the hand, and as well as the kind of cuts that you can use, the kind of thrusts and the kind of cuts. Nothing too special. As well, you can hit with the cup part as like a ramming weapon if, let's just say, you don't got enough range to stab, as well as you can use the pommel. And here we're going to be using the sword and the buckler. And you can see what that looks like right here. Now once again, I'm not hitting the target very hard. I'm not trying to use any specific techniques. I'm just showing you what it looks like overall, as well with the buckler. Now with this sword, the smaller one, I'm going to beat it up a little bit and I'm going to show you right here how it works with the buckler. You can see how agile these swords are. They're very good for stabbing, and as well they're moderately good for cutting. The bigger one that I have is very good for chopping down stuff, but this one right here would be more rapier like, even though it's very short like a small sword. The reason why I wanted it very short like that, of course, for a gift. That's why it has a smaller handle, but also because it is very maneuverable, very light, very fast, and it as well is very good for the stabbing, which creates constant stings from the buckler. And with a good buckler, you can see how fast the sword is. Very good for the blocking, very good hand protection, and as well it's very sharp for the thrusting. But for the hacking, it is still enough to cut the skin and the muscles all the way down to the bone, enough to bleed the opponent out. It may not be good enough to hack light armors away and limbs off, but it is still good enough to get lightly clothed infantry, people who do not have really armor or anything like that. But when it comes to the stab, you can pretty much take out any opponent. And as well, when it comes to an armored opponent, with the buckler, you can have enough protection and you can maneuver enough so that you can possibly get your stab into a nice place. So that's something that you're going to have to do with whatever sword if you're dealing with armor. So might as well have a sword that ideally deals with the thrusts, because you can take out really any opponent with it if you hit them in the right spot, depending on what kind of protection they have. And also, with the moderate cuts, you're able to do enough damage. Now there's certain swords like sabers and a lot of other thrust and hack swords that do a lot of damage as well as thrust, or they just work on hacking. But this sword right here is a little bit good for hacking, but it is ultimate for thrusting. And people are going to learn very quickly as they do HEMA that the sword and the buckler is one of the most deadliest combos you can have. It is a combo that will beat most other sword styles, even two-handed sword styles, because of its agility and as well as the protection that it has and the offense that it can have while it protects itself. So you can block and you can stab, block and stab, block and stab, block and stab. It is a very good combo. That's how the Romans did it. That's how many professional armies did it, and that's how the Spaniards did it. But you can see right there that they always have a little bit of the cuts. They always have to have the cuts in. This sword in particular would have been a little bit more later in the period, but the other sword that I showed you, the blade of it mimics something of the earlier periods. But I'm going to tell you that this sword is custom made for me. Both of these swords were custom made for me, and I got a cup on it that is a little bit more modern than the old school swords. So this sword is a little bit of a Frankenstein throughout the ages. It's not solidly one, so I picked it for that reason, because I didn't want it just to belong to one age. I just wanted it to work. I wanted it to have the best protection, so I took the best of all the ages. And then this small rapier that you're seeing right here, or Ropera, this one in particular, I wanted it particularly designed like this. Of course as the gift, but also because you can see right there how agile it is, how maneuverable it is, how quick it is, and how I can use my buckler and how I can use different combos. I don't have to worry about a lengthy blade, and you can see that this entire demonstration is being done in something is like a very tight alley with like 5 feet across, and it's like just a complete alleyway. And you can see how maneuverable this sword is, how easy it is to get those thrusts in, and as well as use the buckler, have the protection. So I don't really need big hacks, big cuts, but still you can see that I'm throwing them in constantly. Now, am I tired? Not really. And you can see here in a little bit more slow motion, just trying to slow down these hits. Of course, by this time, I'm a little bit worn out, but not tired. But I keep repeating these shots, because I'm just trying out my sword. And I always do this with all my swords. I beat them up the best I can without destroying them when I first get them, to see if they're going to survive. If they don't survive, then they're not a good sword. If they do survive, then these swords were made for me and whoever I give these swords to. And I'm really confident that this sword, if I ever give it to my son or my daughter, or someone that I love, or someone that I want to give this as a gift to, and they happen to be a child, or they happen to have really small hands, really young, they're going to enjoy this, and I'm going to enjoy giving this to them, and I'm going to know and have confidence that this thing is fully functional. It is very good. I'm not going to sharpen the edges. The point is always going to be a little bit sharp, and you can tell by the narrow blade, but I'm not going to really sharpen it because this is going to be a gift. It is going to be for practicing, for drilling, and it's not going to be really for fencing or hurting anybody, and I got no need to have a sharp blade because I'm not going to go into combat, or I'm not going to really be making cutting tests with this sword. Maybe with the other one I will, but this one in particular is custom, and it really has no historical significance unless you want to go custom about it, because people back then, they had different lengths blades. I'm sure that people in the past would have made blades just like the one I'm using right now, would have had it custom made because they wanted something shorter. A lot of cultures did have shorter swords, The Spanish in particular had all types of rapiers, including shorter rapiers like the one I'm using right now. The conquistadors would have used rapiers like this too, well, at least in the later periods, maybe not the very first ones. And yes, people would have used smaller swords like this, 25 inches to 35 inches. Some rapiers went up to 51 inches, even longer than that. I wouldn't want to go any longer than that. People had their purposes, they had their needs, and I have my needs. I want my sword to be a little bit more shorter and still have all the protection of a rapier. Yep, so I'm just giving you the background of people's custom needs, what they would have liked, what they would have needed. And this is simply just what I needed, what I wanted, so I had it made for me. I had two of them made, a regular size one and this small one. Now the small one is like perfect, I really like it. And I think that the big one is just a little bit top heavy. I'm gonna have to get it modified or have it sent back so that the guy can actually put a real folder in there, because it has very good bevels, very good counterbalance system. But the thing is that it could use a good folder. Not this sword. This one in particular, I want it to be a little bit stiff, not too flimsy. That's why it's stabbing really good for a small sword, and it's still able to cut. But the big one in particular is just a little bit too stiff, not flexible enough, and a little bit too heavy, so I think that I'm going to get it modified. So for Wise Warrior's Path 2, thank you for watching my video. This was just a rant, nothing too crazy. Very soon I'll be making a second part to this video, so I can be showing you the swords more up close, telling you what I think, better footage of the swords and other tests that I want to have done. But for now, this is just a quick, rough and ready, right out of the box test that I decided to film, and I decided as well to share with you guys. I'm sorry for any errors in my information or mistakes in my grammar, but this is what I have to show you right now. Until next time, subscribe, come again, take care and goodbye.